A little over 3 weeks ago, I found out that I have a laying worker colony. Since then, I've done so much research so that I can better understand how the pheromones actually work in the hive. And I think I figured out how to fix it an easier way. So let me tell you how. They are not happy. So that being said, we should probably zip up. What I'm noticing is they are actually acting normal.
So here's how I apply it. Doesn't matter which side you do. Just make sure you do it in the front. You do it in the back. Lay it across like I did here.
Well, why don't you maybe get butt?
You're probably thinking, well, maybe, but
So for any new beekeepers watching, I'll explain what a laying worker colony is first. So whenever a colony loses their queen for whatever reason, a clock starts. And the worker's ovaries slowly start to develop. 3 weeks after the last bit of open brood is capped, those workers will begin laying eggs, and they don't really know how to lay eggs correctly. So what you'll see is multiple eggs in a cell. That is the tell-all sign that you have laying workers. You'll see like 3 in one cell, 5 in one cell, 2 in another cell. It'll look like a big, huge mess of eggs. But the issue with this and why it's not good is these eggs aren't fertilized. So your general worker bee, they come from a fertilized egg, meaning that the queen went out, she got mated, she came back, and she laid those eggs. But an unfertilized egg, which is what the laying workers will lay because they're not able to go out and get mated, those eggs turn into drone bees, so the male bees. And really all male bees do is they just eat resources and mate. That's it. They got a pretty simple life. So as all of the worker bees in the colony slowly start to die off, the colony will end up collapsing because there's no bees there left to do the work. Because the drone bees don't do any of the work, it's only the worker bees that do it. So this is fine and all in terms of saving the genetic of that certain colony. That's actually one of the cool things about them is the reason they start laying eggs is it's a last-ditch effort in order to save their genetic line. As you learn more about bees, you'll begin to realize that every single thing that they do is for the sake of their own genetics getting passed on. So remember when I said that a clock starts as soon as the last bit of larva is capped? Well, the queen mandibular pheromone prevents the ovaries from developing, but so does that brood. It releases a pheromone that prevents the ovaries from developing, so they both go hand in hand. So knowing that little bit of information, this is how I tackled this problem. Also, I just want to say, when I was doing research on laying worker colonies, it really seemed like in order to fix a laying worker colony, it was like some witchcraft. You had to like throw some salt over your shoulders, spin around a couple times, hop up and down 3 times. Like, it just seemed so complicated in all the ways that beekeepers were finding to fix the issue. And I was like, there's gotta be a better way. It can't be this difficult. And I think the way that I found is actually a lot easier. And also, I just want to debunk one more myth that I kept coming across. To my understanding, when you have a laying worker colony, it is not just one bee that starts laying eggs. It is actually hundreds of bees in that colony that their ovaries develop and they start laying eggs. So correct me please if I'm wrong, but to my understanding, I'm pretty sure it's multiple bees that do it, not just one. So knowing that little bit of information that the open brood does in fact release a pheromone that prevents the worker bee's ovaries from developing, I threw in 2 frames of open milk brood. I call it milk brood because the substance that it's food. The food that the larvae are sitting there and swimming in, it kind of looks like milky, so I just call it milk brood. I've heard a couple other beekeepers call it that too. But anyways, I threw in 2 frames of that open milk brood. I also threw in 2 capped queens and 2 queen cups. But that's where I made a mistake. So when worker bees are laying eggs, they think that they're a queen right hive. They see all these eggs and this brood developing, so they think they have a queen. So when you introduce a queen during this time, they're like, hey man, we already have a queen. Why are you trying to give us one? Like, get out of here. Like, you know how they are when it comes to having multiple queens in a hive. They don't like it. There's only one. So when I came back a couple days later to look at this hive, I saw that they killed those capped queens. So, I mean, it's all right, but it was kind of a waste of the queens. So, yeah. But in all of the research that I was reading online, was saying that it usually takes about 3 weeks of consistently putting in a frame or two of open brood every single week until those bees then realize that they need a queen, because they smell the pheromone from those fertile eggs that you put in there, the fertile brood that's in that hive, and it tells them, okay, we need to actually have a queen because we're not going to lay eggs anymore. But one of the other cool things that I saw when I opened up the hive is that they had cleaned out every single egg that they had laid. So all of those laying worker eggs that they laid were completely gone, which told me that the process had already begun, that their ovaries were beginning to shift. But when I saw that they had killed their queens, and after reading the research saying that it usually takes about 3 weeks, I didn't want to wait that long until another queen was made, especially since I wasn't planning on bringing a new queen into this colony because I wanted to keep the genetics that I have in this bee yard. So instead, I tried something else. One of the ways that commercial beekeepers make queens is they use something called the punch out method. And what it is essentially they just take a frame with this little like circular metal tube and they punch out a cell out of the frame. And they take that cell and they poke it all the way through so that then when they attach it, it's hanging down, so that the opening of that cell is hanging down, and they'll attach it to a frame. And the bees in that hive will then make it into a queen. I pretty much did the same thing. So since I have wonky comb throughout pretty much all of these hives, I went in and I took a little cutout of a couple cells, and I took those cells and I put them in this hive on a frame. But instead of putting them how they're supposed to be, I did exactly like they do in the punch out method. I put it so that the opening of the cell was facing down, and it worked. I came back a week later to see that I had a fully capped queen. So that means that they made their own queen, which pretty much has a 100% success rate in them actually accepting it because they made it themselves. So now here's where it gets kind of good. So I came out yesterday and I was checking on this hive, and as soon as I put my eyes on that brand new queen, she's very dark by the way, she's almost black. As soon as I put my eyes on her, she hopped off the frame and flew away. Yeah. So it's pretty common knowledge as a beekeeper that when you have a brand new queen, it is wise not to open up that hive for a couple weeks so that she can get situated, all the workers can be okay with her. Because if you're constantly opening up that hive when you have a brand new queen, you risk that colony thinking that all the stress that's happening is caused by her, and then they could eventually kill her and you have to start all over again. Not fun. So yeah, we need to see if my queen actually came back, because it's gonna suck if she didn't, because then I gotta do this all over again. But
I will say though, for anybody watching, that if you do have a laying worker colony, just be aware that it's going to take a lot of resources for you to fix this colony. Like I said, you need to be adding in open brood every single week for a minimum of 3 weeks, honestly probably 4 weeks, at least until you have a queen that is laying. So just keep that in mind, that if you have a weak colony that is a laying worker colony, it might not be worth saving if you have to risk some of your other colonies and weakening them. Okay, I see something that kind of makes me worried that she never came back. So this was not here yesterday, and it does have a larva inside of it. So I don't know, we'll keep looking. Hopefully she turns up. We've got a dancer. Must have found a good pollen or nectar source. Also, is this not just the cutest little thing? Like, look at their little legs and their little butt just poking around the cell. Here is where I had attached those little cells when I grafted them on here. I did a couple. I had one right here. There's one down here, and I had one over here. It's kind of hard to see, but it appears that the queen did in fact mate a little bit, because you can see in a couple of these cells, only a couple of them, not really good laying pattern, I will say, but in a couple of these cells there are eggs, just one egg, not multiple. If you look closely, you can kind of see them poking up. So she was in fact here, and she did definitely mate. Well, I hate to say it, but I did in fact lose that queen yesterday. But it's really cool to see just how quickly they start building up a queen cell, because that queen cell was not there yesterday, and I see a couple other ones that they are starting to build as well. So learn from me, if you have a new queen, don't open your hive for at least 2 to 3 weeks so that she can get situated. So to recap my method of how to fix a laying worker colony, what I did was, as soon as I saw that I had laying workers, I put in 2 frames of open milk brood. Then what I would do is I would leave it for about a week, and then I would go in, take a cutout of open brood from another hive, but first, make sure that the brood that you take is very, very young brood. You want to get brood that just hatched out of the egg. So the smallest little bits of brood you can find in your hive, take those and put that in your laying worker colony, attach it to a frame so that the cell is pointing down, and then leave it be, and they'll make it into a queen cell and everything will be fixed. Oh, and one more thing. Also make sure that you're adding in open brood every single week, at least once a week, until you see that capped queen fully capped. Or until you see that queen fully capped. I kind of said two of the same things at once, like, I don't know, you know. Also, I just want to say some very exciting things are coming to the BeFit Bee Yard. I'll spill the beans a little bit. So I found out last week that I won a $5,000 grant that I can use towards my bee business. I won it through the agency that I registered my business under. They make everything so much easier. They do all of the paperwork and all of the office work that you don't want to do. They figure out what licenses you need, all of your taxes. Like, they make having a business so much easier so that you can go out and actually do the things you love instead of sitting in the house, doing all the paperwork, doing the things that nobody likes. So yeah, I won a $5,000 grant through Zen Business, and because of that, I'm expanding very, very soon. So stay tuned, because a lot of exciting things are coming, and yeah, I can't wait. So thanks for following along on this laying worker colony. I'm so happy that it's finally fixed. Well, I mean, sort of. At least I have more queen cells in there that will be kept and will emerge soon. Just, yeah, now I gotta wait another 2 weeks, so kicking myself for that. Don't do what I did. But I hope this helped you out. If you have the same issue as me and you gained a lot of knowledge and value from this video. So yeah, with that, I will see you guys in the next one.